I bet you've used a computer once or twice in your lifetime, probably throughout the day today. In fact, I bet you're watching this on a smartphone, which is a fancy computer that has more computer power than all the computers that NASA used to launch man to the moon in the Apollo 11 moon launch in 1969. So computers are pretty special. So you have your computer, then you need an operating system for the computer. And you have Macs have one operating system, PCs have another operating system, but that tells the coders how to create the programming. And the program is why we buy a computer, so that we can do things to make our life better. Maybe you have a word processing program and you type stuff out, your thoughts on into words, or you have a spreadsheet and you put numbers and other categories into a spreadsheet. Pretty cool stuff. So you have the program. Well, let's change this to think about how it relates to us. Our brains are our computers, our nervous system. So brain, spinal cord, brainstem, that becomes our computer. We have an operating system. Now, my dog's right outside the door right there looking at me. They have a brain, but their operating system is different. They have a canine operating system. We have human operating systems. That's our DNA. So we have the operating system. Now, what about the programs? How do we get our programming? Well, most of our programming begins from conception through wherever you're at now. We're programmed by external stimulus, and oftentimes from a mental and emotional standpoint, it's taking place and creating this subconscious programming from early childhood. When we're in utero to about 5 years old, we don't have any conscious awareness. That's when our prefrontal cortex is about fully formed. Then we start to recognize patterns and see them again and again and be able to recall and regurgitate those memories. So we have these programmings that came from our people of influence when we were young, our mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers. They often tell us what to think. And so we begin with that programming. Well, that programming, despite their best efforts, might not have been what's best for us now. My parents grew up through the Depression. They had a different viewpoint. Then they went to World War II. They had a different viewpoint. Now, I haven't suffered through a depression, maybe a few recessions. I've never gone to war. I've been observant of wars during my lifetime, but it hasn't had a direct impact on me. So their programming that was fed into me is going to be different than the programming I need in modern times. So how do we get in and write new code, new programs for our subconscious mind? That's what takes effort, takes training, and it takes specific neuro techniques. It's cutting edge neuroscience. We're able to do that now. Basically go in, do microsurgery without a scalpel by pulling out all those weeds, all those things that don't serve us anymore. And when you have an empty space, you need to fill it. Nature doesn't like a vacuum, so we're going to put flower seeds in there, gardens, build your garden. And that's metaphorical, of course, but we want to remove the negative self-talk that we have, feed it with something positive. We want to strengthen our inner sage and weaken those saboteurs, those committee of voices that are in there that we don't even hear consciously, but they control everything we do subconsciously. So we want to rewrite those programs. So that's the analogy of computer, of the programming of the operating system. So you have a human operating system. You have some programming, which might be amazing, but there's probably a few bugs that we need to iron out. And that's exactly what I help people with. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Clark. Thanks for tuning in.